NBA over-unders Eastern Conference with the one, the only Ronald Cabang joining me. We're just going to get right into it, Ronald. We're going to go by alphabetical order, and we're talking win totals for the Eastern Conference. No time to waste. The Atlanta Hawks. So Ronald, obviously, the big thing here is they threw in the towel on the DeJounte Murray experience. So they,
Hmm.
they don't have him. They don't have Sadiq Bey. Last year, 36. This kind of feels like a lazy number from the books. I feel like the books don't really know what to make of this. They're like 36 wins last year, 36 and a half
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year. What's your take on Atlanta this year?
I think it's somewhat telling, right? Because they lost a huge player in Dejounte Murray, and they kept it at 36 and a half. But to me, I think they have a good young core. They have Trey Young, Jalen Johnson, Okongwu, even Hunter. I think he's a solid two-way player. But they also brought in solid defense to balance out this offense, right? Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance. They brought in the big Zachary, the rookie. He's super long, lengthy. I think that's going to help their defense overall. Even if they just move from like bad to average, it would be a huge impact on this team because Trey Young, he knows how to run this offense. He's been with them for a bit. I mean, as far as like with the players around him, so they do have somewhat some chemistry there. So to me, I think it comes to like health. Jalen Johnson missed time, Hunter missed some time as well. I think even Okongwu missed some time. So if they can stay healthy, this young core, I think they have good chemistry. Now they have a defensive mindset on off the bench. Jalen Johnson, I think he's going to have a huge uptick in production this season. But yeah, I actually think this isn't gonna go over. I think it's gonna squeak over that 36 and a half.
Atlanta's just one of those teams where it's like, man, am I sick of being disappointed?
Yeah, yeah.
By that, like, because it's like you look at him, you're like, he's good. Like, why aren't they better? And
Hmm.
you mentioned it to me. We know Trey Young and the offense are going to be fine. We know
Hmm.
that. It's just the defense has just been so bad with Trey Young. And not putting it all on Trey Young. Dejounte Murray kind of gave up on playing
Yeah.
defense, with this team. So, as much as I hate to depend on Trey Young and the Atlanta Hawks, I'm with you. You said it, but their defense it can't be atrocious. Can it just be a little better, you know, throughout the course? It's not a super confident pick, but they have to be better than 36 wins last year. This team just I
Hmm.
just feel like it has to be better. I mean, I watched DeJounte Murray absolutely quit towards the end of the year on this
Yeah.
team. So it just didn't work. I don't blame anybody for the experiment not working, but I think it's kind of addition by subtraction to that one. So yeah,
I
you and I
believe
are
you.
in agreement slightly into the over on the Atlanta Hawks. Next up, Boston Celtics. 58 and a half. Winning a championship, man, the next season, it's so hard. That being said, kind of hard to poke holes in this team.
Yeah.
Monster number here. What are you doing with Boston?
Yeah, this one was kind of tough. I kept going back and forth. I think a lot of it has to do with obviously injuries, Porzingis, and how they factor him in with is he going to miss time or what kind of time is he going to miss? But overall, I think I value continuity and depth, and this team has both, and they have top tier offense and top tier defense. And even if we say back to backs, one of the key players are going to be missing. I mean, they did it last season and they still got 64 wins, right? I mean, this team doesn't, like you said, doesn't have a lot of holes. They even if they miss, Tatum or Brown on the offensive side of the ball on rest days or whatever it might be, they have the depth on the defensive side of the ball to really stay in games no matter what, like, whoever they play against. So I think they get up to the 60 win mark here. I think they squeak over that 58 and a half. Obviously, um, it's a little bit tougher. Horford is getting a lot older as well. So I think the depth in the bigs position, the centers position, maybe not that great, but overall they just have too much going for them to really take the under on this one.
Yeah, I feel like this is like year 4 or 5 where we're like, well, Al Horford's getting old.
Yeah,
The guy just
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
the guy just keeps there. Porzingis being out is a big blow for the regular season, obviously. But my worry about this total so big is this team it's definitely a championship or bust.
Hmm.
And my other worry is that you go down the list of Eastern Conference team, and I mean, how many teams are really going to be pushing for the one seed? I think there's only a couple.
Yeah.
So they could be like, you know what, if it's getting towards the end of the season, they got a lot of wear and tear. What if they just say, you know what, we're fine with the two seed, or the
Mhm.
Knicks, would be a good team to push for the one seed.
For
That, that
sure.
that's a team that I could see going all in for the one seed.
Mhm.
I think this number's about good. I will ever so slightly lean to you because I think 60 is fine. I love the depth,
Yeah.
and you're the absence at the center position. If they don't have Porzingis, let's just say Horford's not doing great. It's like, well, how many teams can really take advantage of that? And then
Nah.
not too many. But then, on the flip side, if you do have a team with a dominant center, how good are they on the wings? So it just feels like there's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to beat up Boston for that. So ever so slightly into the over on the Boston Celtics as well. And opposite end of the spectrum. The Brooklyn Nets, 19 and a half. This is a professional NBA
This is crazy.
franchise whose over under is 19 and a half. Listen, this is how you do it in the NBA. If you want to rebuild, you have to be absolutely god awful, atrocious. And that's what Brooklyn is doing. Do you have it in you to lay your hard earned money on the Brooklyn Nets to win 20 games this year?
Nah, this is under or nothing here. Obviously, I mean, we talk. I hate talking about tanking because all these players are professionals, right? They want to win, but at the same time, organizations they're a different story, right? They could still do things to make it, seem like they're not tanking, but they really are. But this might be that situation here with the Brooklyn Nets. I think they're gonna go after Cooper Flag. Obviously, uh, you know they do have some offense a little bit, but it's really relying on Cam Thomas for the most part. There's really nothing else there. I mean, all these guys are just like role players put on a single team, but no real actual star. I mean, they don't have one guy that could really just take over and win them games here. They just take Cam Thomas out of the picture. Who are we going to really rely on to put points on the board for them? I think this is really tough. I don't. It's going to be tough to see them even hit 15 wins, to be honest. But I mean, these are one of those things where you'll see a ton of like double. I mean, just looking from a spread perspective, right? You're going to see a ton of like plus 14, plus 12. In my opinion, that's what we're going to be seeing with this team a lot. And these are situations you can probably take advantage of, in my opinion. But yeah, from a win perspective, nah, it's got to be under.
It's it is really rough, man. This roster, I'm going down there and I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. I've never heard of this guy. I've like Um, as crazy as it sounds, yeah, it's an under, and not only are they going to be like plus 12, plus 40, it's going to be like that to start the season.
Yeah,
I think the books
yeah.
are going to have to hang these massive numbers because you got to believe if this team is only single digits, you got to believe there's going to be some big time action on them. So
Hmm.
yeah, 15 wins. This sounds about right for this team. It is rough days for Brooklyn. Imagine being a season tickets holder
That's tough.
for this one. So, all right, Charlotte Hornets win total 30 and a half, only 21 and a half, or only 21 wins last year. But, we got LaMelo Ball. And to me, that's kind of what this team comes down to. Do you believe in LaMelo Ball having a full season in him?
Yeah,
Is Brandon Miller a real guy? Makes this over under really, really tough. It's like, man, if I just had a crystal ball to know how many games LaMelo Ball is going to play
yeah.
this year, I would know what to do with it. So this is one of those really, really hard ones. What's your take on Charlotte this year?
Yeah, this one was a pretty solid uh analysis on this one, just because it took a lot longer, just because of what you mentioned. I think it really it really has to do with how healthy LaMelo Ball is going to be throughout the season. I read a stat that said when Ball is on the floor, Hornets win 44.5% of their games. That's well over the 21 that they did, obviously last season. But so if he gets a good amount of games in, they should be able to win a lot more, especially with having Brandon Miller develop in his second year. He played pretty solid last season, right? 17 and a half points or so around there. Obviously, people talk about the sophomore slump or whatever it might be, but in this case, I think he had so much usage last season, especially when Ball was out. That I think that was a good thing for him. Obviously, they didn't win a lot of games, but it was a lot of experience for him to really take on and not only just kind of throw himself in a role where he had to be the scorer, but actually lead the team in some situations. So I think that was a big rookie year for him. I think that kind of translates over to his second year. I like the defensive people that they brought in. KCP came in. Gibson, obviously, both of these guys are a bit older, but they're role players who know what they need to do to come in and succeed on a team. And they're I would say locker room leaders as well. And that's going to help guys like Lamelo Ball and Brandon Miller throughout this season. Even like little changes like Josh Green, he had a lot of good minutes with Dallas, and I think that's going to come into play this season. I feel like he's a pretty solid two-way player, in my opinion, defense and offense. So I actually went with the over 30 and a half on this one. I think the bigs that they have on the team, Mark Williams and the other, I forgot, I'm blanking out on his name, but the other center right behind him, I think they're really solid defensive players altogether. That's going to be great for the guards to be able to pressure, and we see it all the time. I think if you have a solid front court to protect the paint, your guards are able to take more risk and get more steals and things like that. So that's going to help overall on the defensive side of the ball too. So I took the over.
Yeah, I'm going to roll the dice and say LaMelo gets a really good season, plays a number of games, and if he does, I think they fly over. So I'm going to believe in the upside of this team. I think the other thing is, man, there's some bad teams in this Eastern Conference, and
Hmm.
to me, it's kind of weird. There's not too many middle of the road teams in the Eastern. It just feels like there's a few teams with really good upside, a couple in the middle, and then a few
Hmm.
really really bad ones. So I think Charlotte has the most upside of those middle of the road teams. The 27 to 35 win total teams. I think
Yeah.
Charlotte's got the best chance to actually, do a little bit of damage in the Eastern Conference. So we'll fingers crossed that we get a great season from LaMelo Ball because man, there's so much more watchable. That's the other thing about this team is there's so much more fun when he plays. They go from interesting to watch to not really. So all
Yeah.
right, let's root for a good season and hit the over on the Charlotte Hornets. So, here's a team that, in my opinion, is not going to be very fun to watch this year. The Chicago Bulls. I will just spoil it and say I'm so out on the Chicago Bulls. There's a few teams that I'm really really out on, but I mean Caruso's not there. DeRozan is not there. Josh Giddey
Mhm.
comes in. You have no idea what they're going to do with Zach Levine and Vucevic. But to me, this just does not feel like a team that should win a bunch of games, wants to win a bunch of games, can
Mhm.
win a bunch of games. This is a pretty easy under for me on 28 and a half. What do you think of the Bulls?
Yeah, I mean the obviously I think you mentioned Levine and Vucevic, right? What are they going to do with them? I think trading away, I mean, getting rid of DeRozan was a big sign that this team might be looking towards the future, and rebuilding. So at some point this season, maybe we know we won't see Levine and Vucevic on the roster. I mean, they brought in young guys like Giddy. I think Lonzo Ball. We don't even know what's going to happen with him. Obviously, he's coming back from the injury. We don't know what type of minutes he's going to pull, but I mean, to be so injury prone and have to deal with what he has to deal with, I don't think he's going to be at the level of play that he was prior to his injury. And I think prior to the injury too, he was a key component to this team. He was the engine that ran this team. When he was on the court, they were winning, right? But yeah, I don't think he can get back to that level, in my opinion. Even if I'm looking at the depth chart and I'm seeing Giddy in front of Alonzo Ball, and what does Giddy bring to the table? In my opinion, offensively, obviously he's a good facilitator, but if he hasn't developed a jump shot or anything like that, I don't know how he's going to help this team with how they run their offense. I think individually, if you look at some of these players' names, they're great. As a team, though, and how the offense comes together, I just don't think it works. So I kind of like the under as well.
Yeah, I sadly I don't have high hopes for Lonzo Ball. I just like what's the track record of guys that missed multiple seasons with
Yeah.
an injury. I mean, they said at the beginning of last season he was struggling to walk upstairs. because
Yeah.
it was so painful. And I mean, this is the NBA, man. Like maybe you get some spurts of good energy, but how can he last over the course of the season? So sadly, I'm just kind of not really expecting
Mhm.
a whole lot from him. Nothing would make me happier than to be wrong on him,
Yeah.
but I just don't see it. This is a pretty confident under on the Chicago
Yeah,
Bulls for
I
me.
think no, there's just a lack of defense too. I think there's you're going to be able to see a lot of opponent team total overs against the Chicago Bulls team, in my opinion.
It's amazing that Caruso ball backcourt was so amazing. Like when
That was good.
it was so
It's
great.
yeah, it's
Oh,
good.
so all right. We're moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Big win total, 48 and a half. Um what's your take on this one? I think they're a little overrated myself.
Mhm.
I could look like a complete idiot when they're at 50 wins with 12 games
Yeah.
left to go.
Yeah, that's
But
the tough part, right? I mean, they could be overrated, but still go over a 50 win mark. In my opinion, I think it comes down to health again with this team because they're top heavy core. They're heavy. Their core. I mean, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen. I mean, they're a really good core group, right? Offensively and defensively. If healthy, they should fly over this number. But the problem is they just can't, right? You can't expect them to be able to do that. I think defense is going to continue to be the key for this team. Offensively, if they could put things together, I mean, like I said, I feel like they should be able to get up and over this 48 and a half. Does that translate into the playoffs? Will they be able to get through teams like New York and Boston? I don't know, but from a regular season perspective, this is a regular season team. I think we saw this is like I want to say like the Blazers, a few years ago when they had McCollum and Dame Lillard. They were a solid regular season team, then struggle in the playoffs when it matters the most. This might be one of those teams again, in my opinion, but maybe slightly better just because I trust their defense a little bit more. But I actually think it's the over. I think this core group, the continuity that they have, the major factor though is just health. If they're gonna if one of these if one or two of these guys struggle with health throughout the season, and same thing happened last season, but if they can get through that, they should be able to get over.
yeah, we have to see some kind of improvement from Mobley with his shooting, with his outside shooting. Like it's such his
Mhm.
Achilles heel. Like nobody's terrified when he's taking wide open jump shots, and I think it really does hurt the offense if he gets off to a good better shooting performance. That offense is completely different because now you got to guard him maybe outside threes, or at least for mid-range. And then Mitchell gets his extension. There's two ways to look at it. Like,
Oh yeah, I know what you're
okay,
saying.
like great, now
Got my
no more
money.
drama. Now, like, we already know, but it's like, okay, is he now all of a sudden be like, well, I got paid,
Yeah,
so
I
so
got my money. That's
I
all I
got
need.
my money. So where it
Yeah.
is, I like the pieces too much to take the under. While I think that's such a great take. Like, fade him in the playoffs, bet on him in the regular season. I
Mhm.
think that's probably well said. That's probably where I fit on him, because I don't really trust him. Like, I'm not going to bet on him to be the one seed or come out of the East, or upset the
Mhm.
Celtics in the playoffs or anything. But you're right; their pieces are too good in the regular season. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tail you on that one. Lean on the over the win total, but have them to struggle
I'll
in the
say this
playoffs.
with Evan Mobley. I mean, he has a good jumper. All right, he's able to do it. I think he just doesn't trust himself right now. He was able to shoot threes in college too. I mean, like he's capable. I think it's just a trust factor right now. Maybe that's something that the coaching staff can kind of instill in him and give him some confidence to be able to shoot that three. But he has it in him to be that stretch four, in my opinion.
Yeah. Remember when Giannis, like, what was it last year? He's like, oh yeah, he could be better than me. And it was like, slow down, Giannis. Easy there, easy there. So, oh man, the Detroit Pistons, perennial win totals in the mid to low 20s every year,
Yeah.
20 to 25 and a half. Any upside for this Detroit team this year?
Man, I think obviously Cade is a star, obviously, and then you have JB Bickerstaff coming in to be the leader of this team now. They do have a really young um, core, in my opinion, right? They got Ivy, Duran, Thompson, along with Cunningham, but Yeah, they brought in guys like Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. And then they got veterans, right? Harris, Paul Reed. These are guys that are really solid role players. I think we're trying to go. I think teams in the NBA are going away from like the big three to really having a solid team, right? And developing through the draft, just like the Warriors did. I think people are trying to transition to that. And I think they do have a good core. 25 and a half to me, in my opinion, is a solid number to lay for them. And I think it's because obviously it's what 10 or 11 more than they won last season. I think it's because it's going to go over. I don't think 25 and a half is enough. I think this team is going to come and play hard for Bickerstaff and his coaching staff, and he has a pretty solid track record with young teams, being able to develop young players and young cores. And that's what they have here with this Detroit team. I think, I think obviously Harris, people say a lot of stuff about him when he was with Philly, but to be able to lead a younger group, I think he's one of those guys that can do that. Um, but yeah, I think we're going to see a huge jump for Cunningham this season, and I think the over is the way to go here. I actually think they hit 30 wins. I
Oh
mean,
wow.
if I'm comparing to who I think is going to go under, like moving wins up and down, I think Detroit gets to 30 wins.
I like this team better than the Bulls.
Yeah,
This would this
see,
would this would this would not surprise me if they won more games than the Chicago Bulls going into the season. I'll lead to the over too because I think they had a little bit of addition by subtraction where it's like okay,
hmm
Killian Hayes is you're not giving valuable minutes to Killian Hayes
get him out of
anymore.
here.
I like some of these pieces here. I like Isaiah Stewart. I like Thompson. Who knows what you're going to get from Tobias?
hmm
That $25 million on contract
Yeah.
on Detroit is pretty interesting. But you're right. Like if the coach gets everyone to buy in just a little bit, this total could look really, really low.
hmm
And I think there are some teams that they're just way better than in the East. There's a path for one of these teams to like. There's a path for Charlotte or Detroit to flourish and be
hmm
much better than people think. And Detroit definitely has the pieces. I think I like they're still rebuilding, but they're not the Brooklyn Nets where it's like the cupboard
Yeah.
is completely bare. So yeah, we'll lean to over on the Detroit Pistons. So
One more thing with Bickerstaff too. So when his first season with Cleveland, he took them to, I believe, I'm pretty sure, you can fact check me, but I think he brought them to the playoffs after they were a lottery team their season prior. So I mean that's some type of history with Bickerstaff and young teams. He's able to get the best out of them. So I can see that here because these players, especially Cunningham, Ivy, Duran, I mean these guys are solid players. But two, I mean I don't think Ivy's a two-way player, but Duran Thompson can be a two-way player. Cunningham's a two-way player, so he can get if he can get the most out of those guys, the best out of both those guys. I think 30 is definitely doable.
we've seen we watched it with Ime last year. Like new coach comes in and immediately the attitude is different,
Yeah.
or so it can be done. It absolutely can be done. So all right, slight lean to the over on the Detroit Pistons. All right. Oh, my Indiana Pacers win total. This was Rattle. This was one of my most confident overs last year, and I do not bet a lot of overs with my own money or for clients. Most of the time, I'm an under better for futures. I couldn't have
Makes sense.
I couldn't have played this Pacers over last year enough, and it easily goes over. Books are not giving us a discount this year. I think last year was 37 and a half.
hmm
Yeah, what do we think here? What do you think about the Pacers? I'm interested in your take.
Yeah, I really value continuity and depth with teams, and this is one of those teams that has that, right. Their core. Obviously, this is going to be their the first full season with Pascal Siakam, but I mean he played really well towards the end of the season with this team. Obviously, Halliburton. He's going to lead this team, continue to lead this team. The offense is going to continue to stay the same. It is how are they going to become better defensive team? I think that's the biggest question for this team. But at the number, what is it, 46 and a half? I feel like it's an over. With in my opinion, like I said, I value continuity and depth. The coaching staff, the team is pretty much the same. And if you bring that momentum that they had going into the playoffs and the offseason and all that stuff, I feel like the over is the way to go here. I mean, this is a really solid squad.
Yeah, it's tough to like a team that overachieved last year, and then you get a much bigger win total. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's really tough to take the over, but I'm going to lean over, and maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm just a little bit of a homer here, but
Yeah,
I think this roster sets up well for a nice regular season. This
yeah,
is you made the good case, like the way the salaries are, the cap on the salary for teams. A big three. If you have a big three, you got nobody
on the bench.
after
Yeah,
after that, and
yeah, it's
you're one
over.
injury away from your team being awful in the regular
Mhm.
season. And I really like what they've done with this roster. They've got guys that they can shuffle in and out. And you mentioned continuity, and that that playoff run, yes, 100%, they got very fortunate.
Yeah,
Injuries to Milwaukee, injuries to New
yeah,
York.
yeah, yeah.
But for a young team where they just added Siakam, are
Hmm.
those not the most valuable minutes that team could have gotten? They got 3 rounds of playoffs with Halliburton and Siakam and these guys, and I know that they, I think got swept by Boston, but a couple of those games were really, really close, and that's just what young teams do. They blow
Hmm.
they blow some of the big games, but to go through a good series against a Milwaukee team and a Knicks team that clearly depleted was so good for them. I'll lean over too, just because Halliburton. Don't forget, Halliburton had a hamstring injury. When he went down, Ronald, they carried him off, and I was like, "Well, that's." I was like, "Oh, that's it for the
It's
season. You're
over.
you're you're
Yeah,
not you're not coming back from that." And he did. Now he was not the same. He was clearly not the same. So
yeah.
as long as we can avoid an injury to Halliburton, but
Mhm.
like we get Matherin back, Nemhart had a real coming out moment, and then you just got some of these other guys that
Yeah,
can can fill the stat sheet. So I'll lean
yeah,
a little bit over on the Pacers. I think they set up really, really well. I worry about them in the playoffs
yeah.
because I don't know what their starting five is going to look like against some of the other starting fives in the East. But
Mhm.
for regular season, yeah, I think they got
No,
it locked
I
in.
yeah, I think this is one of those regular season teams again that you kind of their roster is set up to perform well in the regular season. They got guys throughout the second unit who can come in and play one-off games on those back-to-backs or whatever for whoever's on rest that could play and perform really well. The depth and the versatility I think is the key for this team in the regular season to get up and over, but that also can hurt them in the playoffs. So yeah, definitely a strong regular season team. So that's to me a solid look to the over.
It's so nice to have a. It's so nice when your home team is watchable and exciting and
Yeah,
like
it's nice to have a home team. Seattle,
yes.
yeah, yeah, it's all right.
Miami Heat win total 44.5. What's your take on the Miami Heat?
Man, this one was tough too, but I ended up looking towards the under. I think Butler obviously he obviously I mean just the injury aspect of it, right, and the overall depth. Not really fond of their overall depth for this team. Obviously, they're going to be top heavy. Butler, Tyler Hero, Rozier, they're going to rely on them offensively, and Bam, obviously. But yeah, I think they lost some solid key role players that really helped them last season. I think if they're going to succeed, they're going to have a huge jump from Jovic and Jaime Jaquez. I mean, Jaquez was a big surprise for them all season long last season, but I just think that overall in the regular season aspect, I don't think they have the depth to really get up and over this 44 and a half. They should be a playoff team, right? They're top heavy. They should be able to get some wins there. But yeah, as far as an 82 game regular season, 44 and a half seems a bit too much for this team here. And it's going to be it's going to be reliant on injuries too, right? If Harrow's going to continue to get injured, struggle with getting playing time and all that stuff too. Missing multiple games at a time, and it's going to be tough for them. But I'm pretty sure Spoelstra is going to get them in position in the playoffs. But yeah, under 44 and a half, I think that's too many for this team here.
Yeah, I have a couple teams circled as potential disaster seasons, and this is
Hmm.
one of them. I just I'm going to read you some of these salary numbers and see if this sounds good in today's NBA. 35 for Bam, okay, that's fine. $49 for Jimmy Butler,
Sheesh.
$29 million for Tyler Hero, 24.9 for Terry Rozier, and 19.4 for Duncan Robinson.
Mhm, mhm.
That does not feel like funds allocated properly for a team to make a big run. And I'm with you, Jaquez. Yeah, great to watch. He was great for player props. If you're a player prop better
Mhm.
like me, that's really good. But boy, it falls off a cliff really quick. Really,
Yeah,
really quick after those guys. So I'm going under that. I think this team could really struggle. Like Jimmy Butler and Riley and Spoelstra, they've gotten the absolute most out of this team for how many years?
yeah,
At some point, I feel like there's a little bit of regression. So I have the Heat circled as a team that could really, really struggle. Their offense was bottom 10 2 years in a row. So to
yeah.
be made, so to keep making the playoffs, is just feels like a big ask. So Milwaukee Bucks win total 50.5. What's your take on Milwaukee? Where do they go? Where do they go from here with all
Yeah,
these guys
man.
that have played 10 seasons plus?
Yeah, I mean that yeah, the aging group, that group is getting up there in age. Middleton, Lopez, even I think Lillard. How old is Lillard? He should be in the mid 30s, right? Or at least over 30, whatever. And it's hard to tell because like so many young good players now are like who we've seen for many seasons are still like 24 or whatever it is. So,
Yeah,
but Lillard has to be like 30 plus or whatever. So yeah, everyone's
34.
getting older. I think the chemistry might be there a little bit better this season between Lillard and Giannis. Obviously, they have a season under their belt, but yeah, I think defense might take a hit, especially with Lopez, getting up there in age. I think the role players that they have right now, you could maybe rely on Portis, especially on like back to backs when Lopez is out or whatever it is. But I don't think they have the overall depth either to really get up and over this 50 and a half win total. In my opinion, they're top heavy, right? They're if they get to the playoffs, they can rely on guys like Lillard and Giannis. But yeah, this the way that you cap these win totals is a lot different, right? Than what you say is a productive season going into the playoffs or whatever it might be. But in my opinion, 50 and a half seems a little bit too much, especially with other teams like the Celtics, the Sixers, the Knicks, like those types of teams that I feel like can get up and over. In my opinion, they should be able to. They shouldn't. I don't think they should be able to get over 50. In my opinion, just because of that lack of defense, in my opinion, and that aging group there. Point towards the under.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to go back to the salary thing again, but so Giannis is 29. He's making 48 million. Dame is 34. He's making 48 million. Brooke Lopez is 36, who's making 23 million. And Chris Middleton is 33, who's making 31 million. The next highest paid guy on this team is Bobby Portis at 12
Yeah.
million. They are so top heavy. And I, I wonder if they take their foot off the gas at the end of the regular season. They cannot go through another postseason where Giannis is hurt.
Everyone's injured. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they can't. And like Dave Lillard's defense is not getting any better. It's just
Mhm.
not. Like they can try and spin it all they want, where they say, "Well, he's playing really hard and he's trying hard out there." But another year of Miles, and then who are they bringing in off the bench to help with defense? Like Gary Trent, Pat
Torian Prince.
Dorian,
Yeah.
Pat Connaughton. No, this is an under for me. I think
Yeah.
first off, I don't think Middleton is going to be healthy ever again.
Didn't he get surgery on both ankles this
Yeah,
offseason?
his knees, his ankles. The guy
Yeah.
can't move laterally. Like
Yeah.
it's the kind of the Clay Thompson thing where it's like guy used to be great on defense, but he can't. He went
Okay.
from
Yeah.
really good, deep, solid defender to a complete liability. So not enough defense, not enough depth. This is not a team that's built for the regular season.
I can't believe how bad Milwaukee kind of fumbled this team. Uh, it's tough. It's tough to see. I mean, I'm a Giannis fan. I like him. He's a good player, but they fumbled this team. I think, in my opinion.
Such a panic to go for Dame. I still
Yeah.
like. You mentioned salary cap, and it's better to you want teams as opposed to like big three.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like Dame's not really meant for right now to be
No,
getting
nah.
paid that much.
It's
So
tough.
and then to watch Boston just roll over everybody and win the title.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you. They might have blew it with this current roster. So here's a team that did not blow it with their current roster. Who would have thought
Mhm.
that the New York Knicks would be celebrated as team of the front office has absolutely nailed it for the last couple years.
Yeah.
Big number for the Knicks, 54 and a half. Last year they had 50. What do you make of this Knicks team for the regular season?
Um, this one I like the move. I do like the move. I think when it comes to the playoffs, this is going to help them more than it hurts them. Obviously, that I think DiVincenzo was a player moving up. Right, he was progressing both offensively and defensively. That's a huge loss. But having Cat here instead of Randall, I think the way that it fits the offense, I think it's a lot better because Cat, he's that spot shooter that you need, right? Because you want Jalen Brunson to have the ball in his hands the whole time. To have the offense flow through him and have someone comfortable who can stretch the floor like Cat out there and make it really consistently, right? Didn't he win like the 3-point contest or whatever the other year or something like
Yes,
that?
he's won. Yeah, he's won
Yeah,
before.
so I mean, to have that, I think benefits this New York team overall. And you don't. I think the biggest concern to me was Hartenstein losing Hartenstein to and the lack of depth at the center position, and Mitchell Robinson. I believe he's injured right
Oh
now.
yeah,
Right, he's going. Yeah, I don't know how much time he's going to miss, but that center position is to me is the only question mark on this team. And like you said earlier, we talked about one of the teams in their center spots, but there's not a lot of teams who could take advantage of a lack of center. But Cat, he's a pretty good defender himself. But I would much rather have someone like Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein against these more tougher centers that we have on the floor who can score in the paint. That's my only downfall for this team. But everything else, I feel like just fits better with Cat there than with Randall. So I this one was really tough. I think we're right on the mark where that 54. This they could just hit 55, in my opinion. I mean, this is one of those things you can hit 53 or 55. It's right on the dot with where I think they're gonna be as far as a team in the regular season. But overall, um, I would lean slightly over. That would be me slightly over. But I think the trade overall, in my opinion, better for the playoff run than it was regular season.
yeah. I think though, I'm with you. I love the DiVincenzo on that team. I mean, he was an absolute. I mean, him and Hardenstein were just terrors when the Pacers were
Yeah.
playing him. Like I was sitting there watching, I was like, God, how many rebounds is he going to get? So I wonder if the loss of Hartenstein and DiVincenzo is really going to be felt a little bit more in those big time moments and in the
Mhm.
playoff series because Hartenstein can be just a nightmare matchup if you don't have. And I mean, the Thunder picking him up. I mean, how unfair is,
Dude.
is, is that? It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I hate seeing like these off-season workout highlight reels. They always get you, right? Like Ben Simmons hitting threes every day. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But I saw a video of Hardenstein dribbling through like full court behind the back, doing all this stuff, hitting threes consistently. Man, if that's real, dude, OKC is about to be a beast this season.
it was the one thing. It was the one glaring weakness in the playoffs. It was like, man, they just don't have any muscle or bigs down
Yeah.
low. But now it's like, oh god, they happen to get it. So I think this team's built. Well, it's a very smart built team. I think they're a little bit
Mhm.
more of a regular season team than a playoff team. So I will lean
Mm.
a little bit over as well. Bridges and they do have some. They got so injured in the playoffs, and it felt so unfair to them that it feels like they'll be healthy, they'll be okay.
Mhm.
They just got a ton of injuries at the absolute worst time. So in the East, yeah, I do like the top heavy teams in the East to do well. I think they can survive a couple of injuries if they need to, but
Mhm.
I'll be interested to see how much they miss that attitude of DiVincenzo.
Mhm.
I love that he went to Minnesota. I thought that was a really nice upgrade for them. So we'll
Well,
lean a
they
little
they
bit.
brought in guys like Payne and Shamit, though. I mean, those guys are veterans too. Obviously, in my upside wise, right, they're not as great as DiVincenzo, but I think to cover what he provided for this team off the bench, they should bring some leadership to this team. So I think they might not miss him as much as most people think, especially when you have other guys to be the key focal point of the offense. So
Yeah.
I think it was pretty solid overall.
Let's talk the Orlando Magic. I mean, the biggest question is, can they figure out how to score? God, if they can
Mhm.
figure out how to score, we know their defense is good. It's like the opposite of the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah,
Like like Atlanta Hawks. We know they're going to be able to score. Can they defend? But this is the Magic. It's like, all right, can you get any improvement? Can you get some shooters? And this is another what the books were like. Okay, they won 47 last year.
just did it
47 and a
again.
half. That's the number. What do you think about Orlando?
Yeah, this one, I mean, obviously they have that core, Bankero and Wagner, but they brought in more defense, in my opinion. KCP, they brought in more defense, but he is a really, reliable 3-point shooter. There, um, I think they also have some continuity across their team, right? They brought I mean, Anthony's there, Cole Anthony, Carter, Jonathan Isaac. I feel like Jonathan Isaac is one of the most since he came into the league, one of the most underrated players, only because he just continues to be injured. But on the defensive side of the ball, even before he was injured, offensively he was really solid. But no matter what, I mean, he's just a great 2-way player in my opinion. If he could stay healthy, he's going to be a huge impact on the court throughout the season. Um, but yeah, I think I love their defense. I love the way that they play. They always play with so much energy and physicality, and I think that over is the way to go here. I always talk about continuity, and they have that. This team has that with Suggs, Bankero, Wagner, and all these guys. So over 47 and a half, I think they definitely outperform what they did last season. I think that 50 is in range for them. I think 50. I think they top out at like 50 maybe.
Yeah, I can't ignore some of the pieces that I really like. And you're right about Jonathan Isaac, just absolute terror on defense. Like that's a guy that can single handedly win you like 2 or 3 games just by
Yeah.
shutting down the other team's, really good player. Just a complete pest on defense. So I, they can't continue to be this clunky on offense. I would think surely they can figure out a ways to get some easier baskets, especially at the end of the games.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if they get to 50, but this number seems about right. I think they can get to 48, 49. So ever so slightly to the over for the Orlando Magic. Um, Philadelphia 76ers win total is at 50 and a half. Paul George is already hurt. It's only a bone bruise, but it was just like really.
Yeah.
So they lost a lot of guys, just guys that are out there for minutes, and Tobias Harris, Batum, Melton, Paul Reed, Eric Gordon is still kicking,
Yeah.
still getting those paychecks. Of course, Paul George is the big ad. Reggie Jackson there as well. What do you think about the 76ers here?
I think this is a under one. Under I think didn't you say move from 52 and a half to 50 and a half? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did notes a while back. It was 52 and a half, and I just looked before we recorded, and it's 50 and a half.
Yeah, I think under is the way to go here. I just read an interview on Embiid, and he confirmed that he's likely never going to play on back to backs again. And then you talked about Paul George, his injury already going into the season. We don't know what's going to happen if he's going to miss the early part of the season or whatever. But he's likely not going to play back to backs either. I mean, this is obviously a strong playoff team, but not a solid regular season team. 50 and a half seems a little bit too much. I'm not a big fan of Reggie Jackson, but he does, obviously he's done enough to get through the league and multiple teams and perform pretty well. Um, Eric Gordon, he's more offensive minded. Drummond, I think, is solid. I think he's a great 2-way player, but they're missing a lot of people from last season. You mentioned Melton, Harris, Reed, and those guys, and those are strong 2-way players that they're missing. And also, we talk about continuity. That chemistry is not going to be there to start the season either. I mean, it could be a situation where maybe you take a live number on the over at some point, especially if Paul George misses the first part of the season with this injury. If they're hesitant to bring him back too early, their chemistry issues are seen early as well. They struggle maybe the first few weeks, maybe even a month. Take a live over after that, maybe. But for the most part, 50 and a half seems a bit too much. I think they're going to end up in the maybe 46 to 48 range, in my opinion.
This was another team I had circled that this number just feels way too high.
Yeah.
This is a 76ers team that has never figured out how to navigate Joel Embiid. So I I would just watch him and be like, why are you playing him so many minutes in the regular season?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know what's like, and
Because he
Weller's
wants the MVP, right? He wants these. I mean, he
oh
talked about it before. He
great.
wants the awards and all that shit.
like
Yeah.
they've never been able to manage him. They've put way too much wear and tear on him. Like there were times where it'd be like, okay, I know he's not hurt right now. I know
Hmm.
that it's December, early December, and we know he's not hurt. Why is he playing 39 minutes against Charlotte? like
Yeah.
like so I don't trust this team to navigate him as like now the injuries are really piling up.
Hmm.
And now Paul George, who I've been a Paul George fan for a while.
Hmm.
I actually kind of feel bad for him what happened with the whole Clippers situation. I thought that was going to be a really amazing team for him, and the whole Kawhi thing just didn't work out. So
Yeah.
I'm always rooting for him, but yeah, like those guys that we mentioned, like Tobias Harris, Batum, Melton, Paul Reed, like they don't jump off the page, but those are guys that'll just give you great minutes.
Hmm.
They're going to hit shots. They're going to be pretty decent on defense at times, and they're filling up minutes when Embiid, like you said, he's not going to play back to backs. Like, well, who's coming in there? Like
Yeah.
Drummond's going to give you
Was it? Yeah.
35
Yabusele.
minutes. Yeah, like you're going with Oubre as your go-to guy. So obviously
Yeah.
we have we have high hopes for Maxi. He's going to be amazing, but
Yeah,
I
I was
think
gonna
they're
bring that up. Do you think that he's in play for most improved in that case, right? If we see George and Embiid, you know, play less games, Maxi's going to be the focal point of this offense for multiple games. Um, do
I
you think that
mean,
he's in play for most improved?
see, I struggle with this award because like he was already great.
Yeah,
We already know he's really good. Last year 70 games, 37 and a half minutes per game, 25.9 points. He would have to do a lot to go from that to most improved. I always think most improved is a guy that really sucked or like really sucked last year. And
yeah,
you're like, and like the most improved is like a guy that goes from like 4 points per game to like
yeah.
12, and you're like,
But we
whoa.
saw. I feel like we saw someone in recent history who, won the most improved, only went up like 3 points on their points per game. I feel like that's something that had to just happen in the last like 5 years. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's happened, and everyone was like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah, well, Markkinen, John Morant, I believe
Yeah,
with John
John.
Morant
Yeah, yeah, that's what it
2022,
was.
like, you didn't know he was good? What do you mean? Like, so, yeah, the list is pretty interesting. Giannis is on there.
It's
Victor
crazy.
Oladipo is
Yeah.
on there. Pascal
Mhm.
Siakam is on there. Jimmy Butler was one. Goran Dragic, and Paul George of all people. Paul George. It's an under for me. I don't
Yeah.
trust this team in the regular season. And I mean, for one time, Philly, one time, can you just get to the playoffs with Embiid at
Full strength.
85%? Like it just feels like they can't help themselves. But it's an under. No way I trust this team. Oops. We did this alphabetically, and we are certainly closing with two of the bad teams. The Toronto Raptors, 29 and a half. Like they're 29 and a half, and Charlotte's 30 and a half. Like to me, that's just like there's no chance that
Yeah.
these teams are only one game separated. This is a very easy under for me as they're rebuilding around Barnes. I know they got Quickly and RJ Barrett, but I think they got a few years before they're even serviceable. Easy under for me on this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're obviously developing for the future, and planning for the future with this young group here. I think the biggest thing for this team is defense. In my opinion, this came be was one of the best defensive teams in the league when obviously when they had Kawhi and all those guys, but they've just shifted uh their team to more of an offensive minded team with the guys that they have right now. Barnes, I mean, he's normally a strong two-way player, but if you have guards like quickly there who really don't put much emphasis on defense, that's going to be that's really tough for teams like this to really get far or even win a lot of games because they're just going to give up a lot of points. I mean, can you imagine Brunson on quickly in the paint? Like he's just going to eat him up alive. So I mean, there's these types of situations where I mean, I think individually you have really strong players, but as a team, it just doesn't come together. It doesn't gel well, and they're gonna have. I mean, I feel like there's like a lack of like veteran leadership on this team as well. That's gonna hurt them. And yeah, so I agree. I think the under is the way to go here. This is another one of those teams, just like the Bulls, where I feel like opponents are just gonna just run it up on them.
It just feels like you can't be taken serious if you're bad at defense on the perimeter. Like
Hmm.
it's so hard, especially when Jakob Pertl's your rim protector. Like you brought up a good point. Like Brunson, imagine what's Brunson going to do to this backcourt. I'll just
Yeah.
you go through the other rest of the team. Trey Young's going to have a field day. The Celtics are going to have a field day.
Hmm.
Halliburton's going to have a field day. Even Cade Cunningham is going to have a field day. Dame should have a field day on him. Maxi's going to eat him alive. So they're
Yeah.
just they're rough. This might be one of my most confident unders.
Unders. Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe it.
30 wins for this group is a lot. And if Barnes misses anytime, yikes, big time trouble for them. So this might be my most confident under for the Eastern
I
Conference.
like
Actually, you know what? It is. This is going to be my most confident under.
it.
The Western Conference was the Clippers. The Raptors are going to be my most confident under for the Eastern Conference.
I like it. I
30
like
wins is a pipe dream. So Washington Wizards 20 and a half. Now see the 20 and a half makes more sense than the 29 and a half on Toronto
it.
for me. Um this team has like I don't know. They added Valanciunas.
They got
uh,
Brogdon.
Sar has been atrocious in summer league. You don't want to take too much away from summer league, but you'd like to see some glimpses of hope. Jordan Poole is owed $96 million over the next 3 years. It is just a great source of social media videos on his highlights, not in a good way. So,
Oh man.
uh, all right. What do you think? Can they get to 21 wins?
No, I think this is another team that hits like the. I mean, they won 15 last season. They did not get
Yes.
better. I don't think that. They did not get better. I mean, in my opinion, they got worse. I like the. I mean, I don't like how they brought in veteran guys like Brogdon and Valanciunas. Like, I mean, that doesn't help this organization at all. Like, it doesn't, unless they're going to use them as like trade pieces or whatever in the future. But it doesn't make any sense to me. I think they focus on the long term rebuild here. I mean, look what happened to Jordan Poole. He doesn't fit this offense. His he's more of I mean, his role with Golden State made him look a lot better than he was or is as a player. You can't rely on him as an offensive like, focal point. Um, Brogdon obviously is a great player, but he just doesn't fit this organization like where this organization is going. In my opinion,
Always hurt. It's
yeah,
always
always
it's
hurt too.
always
Yeah,
something with that guy.
yeah,
He was here with the Pacers, and it was like we loved him when he played, which was like, oh God,
yeah.
man.
Strong two-way player. I mean, like he brought a lot of grit to that, to those teams that he played with that actually, made an impact, trying to go to the playoffs and stuff like that. But on a team like this, I don't see any type of motivation for someone like Brogdon or Valanciunas to go off. I mean, in my opinion, I think they're going to be heavy in the trade deadline, and those are the types of teams you want to take it under on. I mean, they had 15 last season. Like I said, I don't think they got better. They might, man. Are they going to go under 15? That would be crazy, but that's the only way that I could look. I think the under is the way to go on this one.
It's just teams like the Wizards. Like why are you always helping the good teams? How did Golden State get out of the Jordan Poole contract?
Yeah,
And then Tyus Jones just ends up on the on Phoenix, like
yeah.
exactly what Phoenix needed. Of course, it's Washington helping Golden State Phoenix, not doing themselves any favors. I'm with you on an under. This is just a laughable team. The guy I kind of feel bad for Brogdon and Valanciunas. I like
Yeah,
those guys.
doesn't make any
Like they're
sense.
they're professional players, and now you got Valanciunas, who's he's just got to be like you can't be serious with this
Yeah.
team. Like so, hopefully, just for those guys' sakes, I'm with you. I hope they get traded to somewhere where they where they can be a little bit more valuable. So, all right, Ronald, tell everyone where we can find you at, and let's do our favorites here. So, where can we find you at though? And awesome job on your WNBA season.
Oh man, WNBA has been amazing.
Like what I loved about your WNBA season was this is not your first year doing it,
No,
and
it's
you
not.
weren't you didn't jump aboard the Caitlin Clark train and just start putting in WNBA plays because a bunch of people started. But you have followed this league for a while. You know all these teams, you know all these players, and you were
Mm,
rewarded, and your clients were rewarded with WNBA. So I have not told you that, but congratulations on your
I
WNBA
appreciate it.
season,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with WagerTalk or the WagerTalk family because I was with Sports Memo first for a couple of seasons, but obviously we're talking NBA. I mean, yeah, I'm glad my WNBA season was great, but NBA, the first 2 years I was with Sports Memo, 2020 to 2021, and then 21 to 2022. Those 2 seasons combined, like because WagerTalk has Sports Memo and WagerTalk, right? They combine the records in the background. You could see who was number one. I was number one between those first 2 years at the Wager Talk
Nice.
family. So that was really good. Last season, another profitable season. The playoffs kind of hurt me, but still ended up profitable. So I'm looking to have another profitable season in the NBA again this year. That NBA is actually a reason why Wager Talk brought me on to the company. So it's what I'm known for. But NFL has been going really great. Number one in NFL this season already. Like I said, I've only been with Wager Talk for 3 full NFL seasons. I'm proud to say this. I mean, it's not a number one, but only through 3 years, I'm up to number three all time in
Beautiful.
NFL spread profit. So there's a lot of things going well for me right now as far as the betting aspect. So they were able to give out some solid deals, especially I think specifically NFL at Wager Talk right now. There's a get the rest of the season for like $100 off. I don't know what the exact price is, but that's the deal that they have for me right now. But they also have that site wide promo right now for 2025 and get the rest of the year free. That covers NBA, NFL, WNBA for the next year. So that's the. I mean, I think that would be the best bet, right? I mean, that's. I think they equated it to $4 a day
Yeah,
compared
you get,
to
you get a
buying
couple. You
them.
get the rest of the year for free,
Yeah.
which is all your NBA
So
plays.
yeah,
Number
I
one
mean
in NFL spreads. It's
that's probably
awesome.
the best way to go. So, yeah, these are the key sports that I focus in on. I know you're an MMA guy. You do darts and all that stuff too. I mean, I can't imagine having to handicap all that stuff, but I have a focus on specific leagues, and they're coming up right now. It's the best time to get on board.
Love it. All right, what's your favorite over under here in the Eastern Conference? Which one is just like jumping off the page for you?
I think the my favorite under. I think this is tough. There's two. And I think I have to go with Toronto. I think you said that was your favorite too, right?
Yeah,
But I agree. I
this
think
number is
Toronto,
insane, Ronald.
dude.
Insane.
Yeah, I think Toronto is a solid under. I even think the Nets. I think the Nets and the Wizards. They're both going to be a battle for the worst teams in the league, in my opinion. So even at 19 and a half, I think under for the Nets there. Those two were my top two that I was looking at, the Raptors and the Nets under. As far as over goes, I want to say I want to say this is I want to say Charlotte. I talked about Charlotte. I think Lamelo is going to be healthy this year. They have continuity on their side. Their defense has become a lot greater. I think 30 and a half is very doable. I think they get to the 33 to 34 mark, especially when you count all the teams that we think are going under and how much they go under by. I think some of those wins go to the Hornets, and I think that would be, in my opinion, the best over bet here for this
Yeah,
season.
yeah. Toronto's easily my favorite under. I see very little upside for this team. So as my favorite over, I'm going to eliminate the Pacers because I worry about my homerism uh, affecting me. But I'm gonna surprise everybody, and I'm gonna go with Detroit
Oh, that's a
I
good one too. Yeah.
I believe in Cade Cunningham, and I believe that some of those players that they have just have some real upside, and I think they've actually gotten rid of some guys that they were giving valuable minutes to
Hmm.
that are just not going to be there anymore. So, like like for them to have a lower total than Toronto to me is pretty crazy. So
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
think they're going to be great, but man, can they get to 26 wins when you get a full season of Cade Cunningham running the show?
Yeah,
Yes, I believe so. So I'm going to go with Detroit. All right, Ronald, great work. Always love talking NBA with you. So hopefully we
appreciate it.
can keep in touch and do some more content this season. Good luck on the
100%.
plays,
Let's
brother.
do it.
All
Yeah.
right, man. Have a good one.
Peace.
NBA season is right around the corner, so we have to talk some over unders and futures with my good friend Skee Profit from WagerTalk. Skee, you've just been killing it in NBA. I think that's pretty much what kind of put you on the map there. Before we get into the first one, we're going to talk about every over under for the Western Conference. We're going to start with Dallas. Give everyone your record from the last few years. You just told me it before we started recording. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah, yeah. I wrote it down in the back of this notebook. But let's see. Last 3 years. Last year I was up 61.98. Year before that, 128.13. Year before that, 44.83. So if you look at all three together, that is a total of plus 234.94 units in the association.
Beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful. Incredible work. Looking forward to another great season. All right. We're going to go alphabetical order through the Western Conference. You and I were both surprised that Dallas is the first team.
Yeah, all the way to
The
the D's.
all the way to the D's. 49 and a half. Kind of a tale of two teams. They add PJ Washington. They add Gafford. They went 21-7 in the regular season after they added those two guys. Obviously, incredible playoff run. What's your take on where Dallas ends up this year, and what do you think about this 49 and a half number?
Well, Dallas, I mean, was pretty good last year. Made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Looking at win total specifically, they got 50 wins last year, and I don't think that they lost too much. I mean, subtractions: Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., who at one point had like not hit a shot for I don't know how many months, and then they lost Derrick Jones Jr. And I know he hasn't looked good lately. I'm talking about Clay. He's one of the additions that they had, but when it comes down to it, he's going to get so many open shots, and that's the guy that I'll put my money on hit open threes. So I think the of Clay is really good for the Mavericks. Dinwiddie, I'm not mad at that for some depth, but this team already proved themselves last year. Like, why should we be doubting them? Why should we expect them to take a step backwards? I think that 49 and a half is not a tough ask. They just have to do what they did last year, and they improved their depth a little bit. I feel like in this one, they added some shooting, which was their big struggle. Everybody they were playing defenders had a foot in the paint, just making Luca get rid of the basketball. Can't do that as much now, and I might look at them for the division. But win total at 49 and a half. I mean, like I said earlier, they got 50 last year. I don't see why they can't do it again this year.
Yeah, I mean Clay's clearly not the same defender he was, but I'm with you. Like his role on this team, stand outside and make open threes. You're going to get the ball. Luka's going to get you the ball. Kyrie's going to get you the ball. You don't have to be that big of a playmaker. So I'm with you that this could be. You got maybe a year or two that Clay could really do some damage from outside. I'm always a little bit nervous about betting overs because injury thing, but I'm with you, man. I loved what they did with Gafford and PJ Washington. I think this sets up for a really nice regular season run for Dallas. Yeah, you and I are in agreement on this one. 49 and a half. I think that's how you play it with Dallas. And fingers crossed we get we get one more great Clay season. A great Clay season with Luka and Kyrie could be like epic. Like that could be like league pass, for me on the East Coast late at night. Oh, Dallas is playing. I'm not going to bed. I'm going to stay up and watch
Yeah, that
Dallas.
East Coast time zone is crazy. Games they're on all night.
It sucks. Like I was on a run with taking Austin Reeves over 1.5 made 3-pointers. So I'd stay up and I'd be like, could you just please make two in the first quarter? Please. He'd make one early and then in the third quarter he's 1 for 4 and you're like, oh my God, I gotta watch the whole game. Uh,
God forbid
so
it goes to halftime and he doesn't have them yet. You
yep,
really got to
yep.
wait.
All right, Ski and I are in on Dallas over 49 and a half on the win total. Denver Nuggets win total at the time of recording this 51 and a half. It's tough to take an under on a team that's got Jokic, but I'm leaning towards the under on this one. This doesn't feel like a good regular season for them. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really tough. They got 57 last year, and I mean, like you said, it's hard to go against Jokic because we know. I mean, we obviously know how good he is, but he's not a guy who misses a lot of games. You can expect him to be out there on the floor. So I don't know. What I'll say is they have a really easy schedule. That's what they have going for them. They are playing in one of the toughest divisions, but the thing I don't like about the Nuggets, the main thing is they keep missing or keep losing pieces from their core. Like when they won, like Bruce Brown left last year and KCP left this year. Those are big pieces. You look at the additions that they made. Sark, I don't know how much he's going to help them. And there's a guy that if you've known me over the years, I am not a fan of Russell Westbrook. So
What?
I think he's going to make the. I think he'll be more in the playoffs where he hurts this team because this is not the vast Russell Westbrook section, but I'll just say I think he's going to hurt this team in the playoffs. As far as a regular season number, I have to lean towards the under. Like I said, the West keeps getting more and more competitive. The young teams who were bottom feeders are not bottom feeders anymore. I think it'll be harder for the Nuggets to get to 52 wins this season.
KCP, this was after KCP left Denver, but they asked him about Denver, and he said just flat out, I think we spent too much energy in the regular season trying to improve our seed, and we were exhausted when we got to the playoffs. So I wonder if you're going to see these guys maybe sit out a few more games, maybe play less minutes. And you mentioned losing those guys, so now they're going, okay, Christian Braun, now big jump in minutes, big jump in responsibility. Could he be that piece? Yeah, but big shoes to fill, and if he doesn't quite, meet the expectations, I think there's a lot of ways that the team goes under. I don't know what to make of Jamal Murray, how horrible he looked in the Olympics. I don't want to read too much into it, but certainly wasn't great that he was
Yeah,
he
his
was a
his
disaster.
injury, his
Yeah.
injury, I think is just lingering, and who knows if he's gotten over it completely, how long it'll take for him to get over it, if he will re-injure it. And without Jamal Murray, it's a whole different Nuggets team.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of don't end up going for that number one seed and say, you know what, let's just be healthy going into the play. We can win on the road, like we can take some of these series, but we got to be healthy. So slight lean. I don't think I'm going to make this a client player. Maybe get a whole lot of money down onto it, but if I had to, we're definitely going with the under. Golden State Warriors, 43 and a half. Last year, 46. They lose Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, add Danny Melton. My guy, Buddy Hield, who I miss dearly from my Pacers. I was upset the Pacers got rid of him. Kyle Anderson is there. What's your take on Golden State Warriors this year?
Yeah, they just played my Lakers last night in the preseason out here in Vegas, and I mean, I think Buddy Hill will be pretty good over there for the Warriors. I think he'll have one of his best seasons with Steve Kerr, and I just think he fits perfectly. Kyle Anderson, I also can see him being, how do I say, like similar to how he was in Minnesota, but almost like a Draymond role offensively for the Warriors when Draymond is not on the floor. So I do like all of their pickups that they made this year. When you have Steph on your team, as long as he's healthy, you always have a major chance to be good this year. I think that the departure of Clay, as much as I'm a big fan of the Splash Brothers. I love, watching them play, but he was unhappy the past couple years, and just getting that energy away from the team, I think is a positive. Um, Steph last year only missed 8 games. I think that's the biggest key for this team. If he can stay healthy, I think they fly over the 43 and a half number. They had 46 wins last year. So I like the Warriors up and over their win total. I think they'll be very competitive this year.
If they get the version of Buddy Hield that my Pacers got when he was playing with Halliburton, they're gonna love him. Like he's instantly gonna be like one that you cheer for. They get the one that played for Philly briefly, where he couldn't shoot the ball and didn't shoot the ball. That's going to be a real drain. Yeah, I think this number's pretty dialed in. It's a Steph Curry team. I just struggled to take an under on it, so I'll lean slightly to the over. This I could absolutely see this being a win total that I might look at few weeks into the season, maybe a couple months into the season, if they're healthy and it looks like they're gelling, I think it's a team that could make a nice little run. I like the 43.5 number. I think that's about perfect.
One more thing.
Yeah.
They're tied for the league best as far as net rest. So their schedule is pretty nice to them.
That's big key, especially for a guy like Steph. Houston Rockets, 43.5. Last year, 41. Interesting pieces here. I was reading articles, and like they had Houston ranked as like one of the top teams you would like to have their roster for the next 5 years. I don't know if I'm that bullish, but where do you think this 43.5? What do you think about that 43.5 win total?
This is tough. Well, I'll start off and say that the Rockets have top 5 toughest schedule this year. They are a team that has a really great coach. They're a team that I like to think is young and hungry, although you got a couple vets over there, I guess. But for the most part, young and hungry. It's just how much can Ime get out of that group? Last year, they only got to 41 wins. When I look at the team, it's a lot of players that I like. Şengün, Jalen Green, I even think is good. Jabari Smith, I think he should be better, but it's hard for me to say the Rockets get up and over 44 with what I'm looking at here. As much as I like Ime, as much as I think as he gets out of good out of his players, the Southwest Division is tough, and not only that, the whole Western Conference is tough. So not everybody can go up and over their win total. I think Houston has to be an under.
I like all the pieces. It's just like, can they play as a team? It was just a lot of individuals playing there, and it's just one of those things you can't really look at in the stats. You like when you watch them play, you're like you said, I like that guy, I like that guy, I like that guy, but do they gel? Like you said, can
do you like the team?
Yeah, do you like the team? I love the coach. I mean, I thought he absolutely got the most out of them last year. He's hands down my favorite coach to watch. Just wears his emotions on his sleeves. When he calls timeout in frustration, he's just disgusted, cussing at his team. But for whatever reason, it seems to work. I'm with you though on the under though. I need to see it before I believe it with them. Again, individual pieces just don't equal a lot of wins in the regular season when you're just not gelling out there. So I'm with you. Under, can't take overs on all these teams. So you got to take some unders. Clippers win total 38.5. Where do you stand on the Paul George list? Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, this one is tough for me because when I was doing my work or looking over these, it was before Paul George really got traded. The win total didn't even move much though. I mean, it was 40.5, I think. So it only went down 2 games to 38.5. Last season they did get 51. I think that you're doing a lot of depending on Harden, who he's shown that he can carry a team, but he is getting older, and we've seen him start to have injuries, and that's something tough to put your money behind. Kawhi, another guy with the same problem. He's very injury prone, and sometimes, personal opinion, I don't even think he cares about playing. I don't even think he wants to be out there, even if he is healthy. So if I say that, it's hard for me to go up and over this win total. Like I said, the West is tough. I think the division is competitive. So the first 2 months of the season, looking at the teams that they play, they're playing a lot of competition. They're going to be tested early. The average win percentage last year, I think it was around 54%, 55%. It's no bottom feeders really. So all those things I said, combined with the top 5 toughest schedule, tied for most back-to-backs this season, under 38.5, I would have to look at.
I can't wait to take the under on this team. I am so out on this team. Kawhi has missed 121 regular season games in 4 years.
Yeah,
with the Clippers. And you're right. You're right. It's like, okay, let's just take away the injury because obviously his body is just not the same. It's probably never going to be the same. But you're right. Like some nights he's the best player in the league, and then other nights it's like, do you care? Like, do you even want to be out there? That Paul George loss is just he was so good when he was dialed in and playing great with them. There's no chance I'm betting on the Clippers to have a good season. I'm completely done with them. Done with Harden. I've been done with Kawhi for a while. I think they're going to struggle mightily this year. This is a really tough spot for this team, this franchise, trying to open up a new arena on the horizon. I think this could be a disaster season. This is one of my most confident unders here on the
It's
Clippers.
it's been a while since we talked NBA, Andy. But over here, or where I'm from in LA, you know how well we say. You know what the saying is about the Clippers. Clippers gonna clip. So
In the NFL, Jets are always just going to be the Jets. The Clippers are
exactly,
just always going to be the Clippers.
exactly.
So
Just how it goes.
yeah. I can't imagine going into a season depending on Kawhi Leonard and James Harden this late in their career. So yeah, Clippers easy under for me. Probably my most confident under in the Western Conference. Lakers always going to run LA from basketball. 43.5. Can LeBron and Anthony Davis do it again? I was amazed at the health of both of them, the durability. What do you think about this 43.5 number?
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Last year, they had 47 wins. But a lot of that, you have to look at that injury luck. For Anthony Davis and LeBron to be on the court for that many games, I mean, I don't think we can expect that to repeat itself this year. I'll just say that. They are tied for the fewest back-to-backs. That's something the Lakers have going for them. Um, I think at some point this season we're going to see a trade. Honestly, I feel like it's been proven that this backcourt that they're trying to start again is just not going to work. Like they just lack too much defensively. You can't have D'Lo and Reeves next to each other. So at some point the team could change. Now, with that said, Bron and Anthony Davis, just looking at them in the Olympics again, just reminding us that they're still dominant. They're still a couple of the top players in the league. Lakers can, or they will get Vando back this year, who missed majority of last season, and Max Christie. I've loved what I've seen from him. He should get a lot of minutes this season. If he doesn't, then we have to riot as Lakers fans. But saying all this, 43.5. I mean, you can make the playoffs barely having a winning record. So I feel like the Lakers are the kind of team where, and I've heard them say this before, they don't really care what seed they have, et cetera, et cetera. They just want to be happy going into or healthy going into the playoffs. It's hard for me to bet over. I don't want to say under. Maybe I'm being biased because it's my team, but I'm not running to the window to bet over. Maybe I'll skip. I plead the fifth, Andy.
Yeah. One of the interesting things, especially for them and for the Pacers, was how much they put into that in-season tournament. And you have to wonder if it kind of hurt them a little
Yeah.
bit. Both the teams that made it to that last game, I mean, a home run for the league. The game was awesome. The tournament was awesome. Pacers and Lakers did not come out of that, great. They struggled there for a bit. So I wonder if the Lakers say, we're not doing that again. We're not going to go like all out for that one. So what's your opinion on their head coaching situation here? Do you like where they're at?
I think he'll make the offense a lot better. I think it's very hard to be worse than what we had last year. I said before the last season, after the previous playoffs, Darvin Ham is incompetent, and for some reason we let him stick around for another year. So I'm happy that he's not the coach anymore. I think that JJ Redick is a really good basketball mind. Like I said, I think he'll have the offense looking a lot better, and as long as LeBron's buying in, everybody else should too. So I'm on board for the coach. A couple things that I did miss though. I did say the roster may change. I know they're still looking for a center because Anthony Davis has said time and time again, and they're finally, acknowledging it. He doesn't want to play center full time, and he probably shouldn't, especially if you want him to stay healthy and do as much as he does for the team. So it's a lot of new. I think that will be for the Lakers this season.
Yeah, I'm gonna slightly lean to the under. It hurts because I like LeBron. I like watching the Lakers play. I like Anthony Davis, but you're right. The health luck with Anthony Davis last year was just like, man, like that's got to be one of the best seasons you're gonna get from Anthony Davis moving forward. So, slight lean to the under, mostly because of the health situation. And you're right. If they can get into the playoffs with 40 wins or 41 wins, LeBron will take it, and
Right.
he'll coast to make sure they're healthy going in there. So. Polarizing team this year, Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, you kind of throw out last year. I was listening to another podcast. I got to credit Ryan Rosolo with this one. There were 33 different guys that played minutes for this Grizzlies team last year. 33. I didn't know that was possible to do
They're
that.
signing guys off the street. Yeah.
Yeah, wild stat. Of course, this year they should have one of the most exciting guys to play in the NBA. I'm not talking about John Morant. I'm talking about Zach Edey. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's John Morant. But I think there's a lot of hype on this Grizzlies team for good reason. Do you like them this year or not?
Well, I just can't help but mention, you said it was 33 guys. Is that what you said?
33 guys played minutes for
you know,
one
last year
basketball team.
I did pretty good betting on, people were coming to me saying, what's the dirty dog of the day? And a lot of the times it was either the Grizzlies or the Wizards. And those 33 guys were playing hard trying to stay in the league. I'll tell you that. But thinking about this year, big difference. I mean, John Morant, he's makes the world of the difference for this team. They only won 27 games last year. The year prior to that, they won 51. But I can't help but think, like, that year when they won 51, they were a pretty deep team. Like, they have depth at center right now, but as far as the guard positions, I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of depth on the rest of the roster. And I know Bane has been kind of injury prone. I think Marcus Smart just didn't want to play unless John Morant was playing, honestly. But it's hard for me to bet over without the depth. Now, what I will say is Ja has a lot to prove this year. And because of that, I don't want to bet against him. So thinking about that, I'll lean over. Hopefully Ja won't let me down, even though I'm not the biggest Ja fan. But I just think he has a lot to prove this year. So I'll lean over.
I'm going to lean under on this one. You mentioned the depth. Jackson's already banged up, and the season hasn't even started yet. Can that guy stay out of foul trouble? He's yet to show that he can't. And what version of John Morant are we going to get back? Everyone has just been like, "Oh,
Very true.
we're getting the same John Morant." It's like, are we? We
Very,
haven't
very
seen him
true.
in a long time. What's his durability going to be like? Just all of a sudden jumping in and playing a full season again. So I'm going under on this one. I got too many question marks.
You know
Everything.
that you might have sold me back to the other side.
It's just everything's got to go right for them to get to 48 wins.
I
They got
agree.
to have everything go right because, like you said, this is a team that cannot absorb injuries. We'll get to Oklahoma City. That's Oklahoma City. That's a team. If someone gets hurt, they can shuffle guys in. This is a team that
Right.
the couple injuries and all of a sudden they're calling some of those 33 guys from last year to come back.
I'm with you
Uh,
on this one now. Yeah.
yeah, I'm taking the under. I can't depend on John Morant to be as amazing as he was before everything happened with him. So we'll go under on the Memphis Grizzlies. Minnesota Timberwolves. This roster has all of a sudden changed in the last couple weeks. So win totals at 52.5. Did you like the trade? First off, and what do you think of this 52.5?
Yeah, when I did my notes for this, it was before the trade, but I absolutely did not like the trade for the Timberwolves. I'm not too sure what they're doing there. Um, you get rid of all right. So a big reason why the Timberwolves were good last year is because they had the towers. Like you replace a big with another big, and it just takes a hit. They're not that same team. That's why they had success versus Denver as well. Now you get Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns, who's a few inches shorter. He's not going to play as much defense, and he's going to ball hog. He thinks he's gonna come on this team and think he's the best person on the court. And I can see Ant right now just being so frustrated being his teammate. Like I do not like Julius Randle on the Timberwolves. So for that reason, I'm kind of out on them as far as futures in the West and things of that nature. As far as the regular season, I think they still can have success. I mean, they lost Kyle Anderson, McLaughlin. They didn't lose too much when I'm looking up and down. So chemistry, I guess, will be tested a little bit losing Cat, but I do like the rookies that they got. Terrence Shannon Jr., he's a baller. I'm a big fan of his. And then Rob, I like him too. Timberwolves playing in a tough division here. OKC in their division, Denver as well. I'll just say this. I think the defense might take a little bit of a hit for the Timberwolves, and they may still be able to skate over 52.5. But when it comes to playoffs, I'm not trusting this team as much.
I'm gonna lean a little bit on the over. I'm a believer in Anthony Edwards, and I like DiVincenzo. He's gonna win like three
I like
games
him.
for. He's gonna win like three random games for them this season. Like they're gonna win just because he went like 6 of 8 from threes in the first half or something like that. Yeah, I love his attitude, especially this preseason. He's getting in
Yeah.
fights with the New York Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have Patrick Beverly anymore, so somebody's got to fill that role. So I think DiVincenzo's a much better addition to this team than Randall. I think he
Yeah,
fits. I think he fits in way better.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'll lead the over on this one. I like the franchise. Karl Anthony Towns, he does some good things, but man, he's just king of the dumb foul. At half court, or just like I don't know. Maybe they lose a little bit of immaturity with him, and maybe it gets replaced with a little bit of freshness and attitude from DiVincenzo. I'm going to lean a little bit over. I'm a believer in Anthony Edwards. So, all right, New Orleans Pelicans win total 49.5. They lose Valanciunas, Dyson Daniels, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance. They get DeJounte Murray, 49.5. I have a strong opinion on this total. What do you think?
Well, I don't have a strong opinion, so it'll be interesting. They won what 49 last year. I have to start off and say this before I forget. This is the other team that's tied for the most back-to-backs this season. This is also a team that I'm trying to look down the list. I mean, the whole the whole roster or the whole all of the starters pretty much, maybe minus Murray. They're injury prone. We've seen Bi have a lot of multiple different injuries. Zion, he hasn't been able to play anything close to a full season, and CJ, I mean, he's getting older too, and he just has some injuries. So we have to worry about that for the entirety of the season. I'm not a big Dejounte Murray fan. It just is what it is. This team, I think, is going to struggle with creating space for each other. Like, there's not enough shooting for me on this roster. So for me and a really talented West, I would not be betting over. It'll be under or nothing for me. So you feel strong. Let's see if you feel the same way as me.
It's an easy under for me. Easy under. I think I've had this take for a while, and people tell me I'm crazy for it. I think Zion is one of the most dangerous guys to have on your team. It's because he's so good when he's healthy that your team ends up depending on him, and he
Mhm.
does so much for your team. And then all of a sudden he's hurt and he's out for like weeks, and then you've grown to depend on him, and all of a sudden this big piece of your team just randomly isn't there. Is it going to be for a week? Is it going to be for 2 months? And I just like, he's a guy that, as talented as he is and as good as he is, I just think he's really dangerous, because you end up he just becomes the fabric of your team, and then all of a sudden he's not there. And it's just like, it's hamstrings, it's all of these injuries, and it's not getting any better. He's not getting healthier. Like, this has been an issue with him the whole time. And then you throw in the fact they have a guy who's starting for them that they openly tried to trade, and it didn't work. And you're right, McCollum's. Yeah, I think this team is. I don't want to say they're a disaster, but this 49.5 is, to me, laughable. This is an easy under for me. Zion's getting hurt. Is it going to be in February or November? Like, when is it going to get hurt? How long is he going to be out? And once he gets out, I mean, they were so uninterested in the first round of the playoffs. The easiest playoff bets I made was taking Ingram under his points in the play. Once the playoffs came around, I was like, this is just a no doubt, no brainer. So too many injuries, especially with Zion. This and the Clippers are my two favorite unders in the Western Conference. I'm completely out on the New Orleans Pelicans. I would love to see Zion play a full season, but It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, and they're just not going to be able to overcome it. So, yeah, big time under for me on the Pelicans. Oklahoma City Thunder, 56.5. I've seen 57.5 start popping up for this Thunder team for good reason. I mean, they're built for playoffs. They're built for regular season. It's really hard to find a weakness on this team. That's why we're getting such a huge number. What's your take on the Thunder this year?
Yeah, they won 57 last year. They got even better this year. You get rid of Giddy, and Giddy, who I mean, he has a lot of issues, and just not the best shooter out there as well. Hayward injury prone. You add Caruso is a great defender. He can also shoot better than Giddy, and then you add Hardenstein, who was a big part of that Knicks team. I think those are two big additions for a team that was already number one last year. So a lot of the young talent that they have, I don't think we have to worry about injuries. Now they're young, but they have experience. They know what they're doing, and for them to get better, it's hard for me to put under for their win total. They are another team who has a lot of back to backs this season with 16, but this team is elite. So I could only look towards over.
I'm on futures when I'm betting with my own money. Most of them are unders. This I will make an exception. This is a easy over for me. I can't believe they added Hartenstein. How did that happen? It was literally like, hey, what is Oklahoma City? What's their biggest glaring need? It's like, well, they need help, at the center position, and it's like, oh, they just happen to get a great rebounder. Oh, isn't that nice? Like the Lakers are like, really? You guys just stumbled upon a center that can add depth. There's no weaknesses. Like you said, back to backs. Okay. And rotate guys in and out all night long. They don't need to put a lot of wear and tear on there. They got depth. They got SGA. I cannot find any weaknesses. And this is one of those teams that can weather a storm if they have an injury or two. They can not miss a beater. If SGA goes out and misses 2 weeks, they could easily go 500 and take care of business there. It's a big total, but we've seen teams like the Celtics last year, like the Thunder, last year, that improved this year. So I'm with you that this is pretty easy over for me, and I am not a guy that likes taking overs on big numbers for the win totals. So we're in agreement there. Portland Trailblazers, win total 22.5. What's your take on this horrific Portland Trailblazers team?
All right, first I think we might have skipped one, or maybe my alphabetical just maybe my brain isn't working.
Oh, I got Phoenix coming up next. Here, you know
Okay,
what?
okay.
Here, easy. They're easy, quick, easy fix. Let's do Phoenix first. You're right. The H comes before O. Let's do Phoenix Suns, 47.5. All right, talk to me about Phoenix Suns. Last year, 49, and they dropped them down a total. This kind of feels like a value.
Well, another team who I don't feel like really lost a whole lot of anything, and what they added, it's not the big superstar name, but Tyus Jones is a hell of a point guard. And that's exactly what this Suns team needs. Just somebody who can get KD, get the offense set up, give the ball to KD and Booker in spots where they can have success. And that's something Tyus Jones is great at. He's a point guard who doesn't turn the ball over. He's a real traditional point guard. So I think it's a huge pickup for this Suns team. Um, they do have a lot of back-to-backs. Top 5 toughest schedule. First 2 months, opponents' average win percentage from last season is 55.7. So if they can make it through there, at least they're healthy to have the fighting chance for that, at least out the season. I like this Phoenix Suns team. I would think that they can get over the 47.5 again, just like they did last year. I like the rookie that they had. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, I'm not mistaken, but pretty sure they got Iguodaro, and I think he's a really good player. Um, I'm a lot higher on this Suns team this year than I was last year. I would look towards their win total over.
I was surprised. But I don't remember 49 wins for them. I looked.
Yeah.
I was like, they won 49. I thought they struggled. I didn't think they were. They got a new coach who, Coach Bud probably will help their offense a little bit more. I'm sure he's going to have them shooting more 3-pointers. I'm with you on Tyus Jones. Love Tyus Jones. He's one of those guys that just like He just makes your team better, and he's not on the list of guys that you would think makes your team better, and he is exactly what the Suns needed with helping that backcourt. I'm with you. It was one of those numbers where I was like, they won 49, but why are we dropping them? Why are we expecting them?
Maybe just because the West is getting better, but
Yeah, it is wild. It is. I guess it is KD's like what is it, 18th year? Like I'm serious. I'm serious. Like he was in the same draft class as Greg Oden.
yeah, it's
Like,
crazy when you think about it.
yeah.
These players are
So
not going to be here very much longer.
no. So I'm going over just because this number doesn't make sense from a team that won 49 last year, and I think they've improved a little bit. It would take pretty big injury in my opinion, and KD's been holding up. I'm not too totally worried about him being injured. Booker, looks great. He's had a couple injuries here or there, but nothing that I would say is Zion, worry,
Right.
worry level. So I'm taking the over on the Phoenix Suns. I think they have a pretty good year in there as well. So all right, now we'll get to Portland. A little bit less sexy team to talk about at 22 and a half. I made a lot of I made a lot of money at the beginning of the season last year betting on Scoot Henderson over turnovers. The books did not figure that prop out for a while. So what do you do with this Portland Trailblazers team? 22 and a half. They're supposed to be bad. They're going to be bad. But do you have the onions to bet your hard-earned money on an over on the Portland Trailblazers this year?
Personally, I can think of a lot of better things I'd rather do with my money than bet the over for the Blazers. I'll just say that.
Stay up rooting for Portland Trailblazer wins on Tuesday nights. Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you. They do have this going. One of the teams who's tied for fewest back-to-backs. I do like the addition of Denny. We'll see what Devontae Graham can do for them. Wait, I think Devontae Graham went over there. But when I look at this team, the starting lineup, I feel like they can compete. Scoot, Simons, Denny, Jeremy Grant, Aiton, like that's the starting five that I think can compete with a lot of teams in the association. And what I would rather do than put my money on the Blazers over, their win total is just bet on them to be a decent first quarter team with that starting group. So a lot of teams will probably see them on the roster and overlook them. And if they have that talent in the starting lineup, they can keep up. So I think Blazers will be a good first quarter team this season, not necessarily getting in on over 22 and a half wins.
DeAndre Ayton is like one of my favorite players because it's always something with him. He's entertaining, like for good or for bad. Like it's always something. And never forget that this man missed a professional basketball game because he said he was snowed in. Never forget. Never forget that he said he could not make it to a professional basketball game. He's a starting center in the league, and he said, "I can't do it. I know everyone else can do it. I know everyone else can make the game, but I cannot. I am snowed in." Yeah, no opinion on this 22 and a half. I'm interested how Klingon is. I kind of like that draft pick for them. They do have some pieces. I would be terrified betting either or because this is the team that they could get towards the end of the year and all of a sudden they're throwing in the towel and benching everyone for the last 10 games and then your bet's blown up. This is a classic stay away. But I like that look on the first quarter. I like that look on the first quarter. You're probably going to get some pretty good numbers. And then you don't have to watch an entire game of the Portland Trailblazers.
There you go.
Watch 12
night,
minutes. Sacramento Kings win total 46 and a half. No Harrison Barnes, no Davion Mitchell. They did add DeRozan, who's in his 16th year. Do you think it's going to make a difference? Where do you think Sacramento sits in the West?
I don't think DeRozan is a big needle mover for me. When I look at it, did they get rid of their depth and add DeRozan? Because I don't really like that for them. I thought that they're a team who, you can kind of just almost sub out two groups in and out and just wear teams out with how the style of play that you had. And yes, they're still young, but I'm just not sure that they can continue to do that. So I feel like that move takes them backwards a little bit. They won 46 last year. the books are expecting him to be better with DeRozan in a loaded West. I'm just not sure I see it. So under 46.5, probably the direction that I would go.
I'm with you. Harrison Barnes, 12 points, but guy played every single game. Every single game that guy like showed up and was there. So there are teams that are going to disappoint, and I think this one could be one of those teams that disappoint. I do like DeMar DeRozan, but again, how effective is he going to be? I don't know if it's going to be he likes to have the ball a lot. I don't know if that's completely going to work. Maybe it works with Sabonis because Sabonis doesn't seem to need a lot of shots, but just feels like DeRozan there with Fox. I don't know how much that's gonna be worth it. Don't forget, he played all games as well. 82 games Sabonis played, and he played hurt. I can't believe he played with that thumb injury that he had. So I feel like some of these guys that have played, Domantas Sabonis, 82 games again this year. I don't think so. I think this number is a little bit too high. I would picture them to be around 500. So taking the under on Kings. It's a great point on the depth, and then replacing it with DeRozan. Like, did they really get better? Maybe not. So I'm with you. under on the Kings. So San Antonio Spurs. Yesterday, this was at 35.5. Money just keeps coming in on the over here. They're at 36.5 right now. Do you like some of the moves that they made? Are you a believer in this Spurs team, or do you still think they need time to build around Wemby?
What I'll say is a while ago, I did see 36.5. So maybe it dropped down and then now it came back up to
Okay.
36.5. But it is a team that, only had 22 wins last year. You do get Wemby on his second season, which is a huge deal. He's shown that, he can be the best player in the league, pretty much. He's definitely probably going to be the defensive player of the year. But Wemby stock is just going to keep going like this. That's what I'm trying to say. And especially when you had a real point guard. I mean, last year they had Sohan running point guard for them. Now you get Chris Paul, who's going to get, I think that's going to take Wemby's game to a whole nother level. So combination of that, I'll take the Harrison Barnes edition. I think that the Spurs can be closer to having a winning record than the 36.5 that they're looking at right there. So um I'll lean over. I think Greg Popovich is sticking around for a reason. I think this team can start to make their way back towards being good.
I'm going to lean under. I just don't think the pieces are there just yet. I mean, Chris Paul's 39. My most confident future I made last year was Chris Paul under his points per game, and that was talk about a no sweat winner. I mean, really, what is Chris Paul going to give you? Can he give you?
I'll say this: he is 39, but every team he's went to, I think, he's improved. I don't know. I guess I didn't look at the Warriors, but every team he's went to, I feel like he's taken him to another level. This reminds me of kind of when he went to the Thunder and they were bottom feeders. And they ended up having like a winning season, I think, that year, or they were at least competitive.
Yeah. He was a lot younger. So he was a lot younger there. So I think they're. I mean, I don't think. I think some like how good Wibby is obviously stealing the headlines, but we have to remember how bad the Spurs had to be to get that pick to get Wimby. I mean, they cleared out the entire cupboard. Like the cupboard was bare, and I just don't think you can do it in 1 to 2 years. I think they're going to need a couple more moves, and I'm not really sure that they're going to be interested in trading. If they're if they really think they have a chance to make a splash in the playoffs, maybe, but I still think they're 1 year away before you really say, okay, now we're ready to make a run for Wemby. I saw he's like minus 480 to lead the league in blocks. just a
He's gonna win
wild
Defensive Player of the Year.
That's an Olajuwon type of number, minus 480 to lead the league. So yeah, he's great to watch. I still think this team is a little bit away, so I'm going to lean towards the under a little bit.
That's fair
for the San Antonio Spurs. And Utah Jazz win total 28. Last year they had 31. I still don't quite understand the direction that this team is going with right now. What's your take on the Jazz? And do I have that number right?
Well, it could be right. I mean, what I saw a while ago was 30.5. So maybe it's dropping. Maybe people are just not believers in this Jazz team.
I have over under 28.5 on the Jazz. The over is plus 100. So this may have been dropping over the last couple days. You can
Yeah,
get
people.
Yeah, you can take the under 30.5, but it's minus 160. So might have had some little line movements. I'm looking at DraftKings right now.
I mean, I look at last year, they won 31 games, and they're a team that was not expected to be good at all. Um, we'll see if they move marketing, but as currently constructed, I mean, this team can still win games. Keontae George is a really good point guard. I feel like Sexton has proved himself to be a really good or to be a good player. Marketing, we know how talented he is, and we know what the market is for him. Collins, I'm not the highest on, but just the team overall, Kessler, I think he's the kind of guy who I'll compare him to like a Rudy Gobert kind of player. Clarkson, he continues to have a big impact off the bench year after year. Like, there's a lot of talent on this team. I don't think this is a team that you can just throw away the way that people have tried to last season. The only way this team stays under 28.5 wins is if they trade marketing and they just, punt and try to like go for a rebuild. That's the only way I see them staying under this win total. They have experience, they have talent. Over 28.5, I would pick.
The marketing piece is kind of why I think this is a stay away because I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what I don't know what they do. You're right. Could they just completely bottom out, trade marketing, and then if you took the under, you're like sitting pretty. But what if they start off good, and what if teams sit players against them? Like what if they all of a sudden kind of have what if they're 500 a couple months into into the season? I don't know, man. I think this is a pretty tough one just because of the future. And you're right. They're kind of a little bit similar to Houston, where it's like, I like the pieces. Like you go through each individual player, like you just did. And you go, yeah, I like
Yeah.
them. Yeah, I like them. But I'm not really sure what the team is going to be, and I really don't think that we know what the team is going to be. The later on in the season we get when we get. I will say they were like 500 on covering the spread. They were like right there in the middle, 42 covers and 40 and 40 not covers. So it was a team that, like, if you just kind of rotated covering and not covering, you were there. But I think that kind of speaks to what are we going to get from the Jazz night in and night out? I don't know. Like, so to me, it's a very, very confusing team. And as far as confidence level, this is like bottom of the barrel. Like there's no way I bet money. I'm going to go I'm going to go under because I think if they get a good enough package deal for marketing, I think they take it. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for a team like this to just kind of blow it up and stockpile a bunch of draft picks and make some moves. So, but certainly not the most confident pick in the world on the Utah Jazz. So, all right, that is the Western Conference. Skee, thank you so much, man. Always love talking NBA. That is Skee Profit from WagerTalk. And then Skee, you'll be doing like daily videos and such throughout the NBA season, right? Tell everyone where you can see you at.
Yeah, I'll be back to every day next week, when the NBA is starting Monday through Friday. And my YouTube, my Twitter, everything is Skee Profit. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll tweet out every single thing that I do. And just like Andy, all of my work can be found at wagertalk.com. So appreciate you for having me on. Like you said, it's always good to talk these games out with you.
Absolutely, Skee. Thanks so much. Good luck, and hopefully we plan on meeting up next year for futures and talk about another winning season for you. Congratulations on the nice run in NBA. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.